Welcome back to The Real AI by ActNow 360, the show where we sit down with founders and operators who are actually building things and not just talking about them. Not the hype, not the headlines, the real story. The stories that do not usually make it onto a stage. Now, I'm Satopa Dwivedi. I'm the founder of ActNow 360, and we help founders and operators use AI and automation to run leaner, move faster, and stop doing work that a machine should be doing. Now, today's guest has built his career at the intersection of software protection, intellectual property, and increasingly AI. So he's the co-founder and president/CEO of Wibu-Systems USA Incorporation, the North American arm of a German software security company that has been solving the software licensing problem since 1989. And now, as AI becomes the most valuable software asset on the planet, his company is right in the middle of one of the most important and undersolved problems in the industry. How do you protect AI? Not just the code, the model weights, the training data, the whole stack. Marcellus, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you here.
Thank you. My pleasure to talk with you.
Awesome. Now, before we go anywhere, can you give me a 60-second version of Wibu-Systems for someone who has never heard of it? What is it? What does it do? And who is it for?
Yes, Wibu-Systems USA is a subsidiary of Wibu-Systems AG, what I co-founded in 1989 with my partner, Mr. Oliver Winzenried in Germany. It is located in Karlsruhe. And so we started originally protection of code. It was an attached dongle that prevented that software can be installed without having this dongle attached. And amazingly, we still sell dongles today. But beyond that, it's a whole portfolio of license optimizations, software monetizations, and protecting of the code itself. So we protect the code against reverse engineering, modification, and other impacts, not just protecting the license against manipulation.
Okay. Now, I want to start with the arc. So Wibu-Systems, again, you said it was founded in Germany, and you are running the North American operation from the US? 2006. So walk me back to how you got here. What was your background, and what was the path basically from where you started to run the American chapter of such a long company?
Yeah, I mean, the intention was we was a company in Germany and we were globally expanding, and we had a distributor in the United States, which was actually quite successful. He opened us a lot of doors to customers, but we saw that the US market is one of the most innovative markets around software. So it's better when we would see what is changing in the industry, what's new innovations are required. And so that's why we wanted to make these sales directly. And that's why I moved from Germany to here to have a closer connection to this market.
Okay. So you chose US as the hub, basically, considering all the software development and everything happening over here.
Yeah, I mean, the hub is still in Germany, but I mean, we have now offices in China, we have offices in Japan, in Korea, in India. So it is more about learning specifically in a country like United States, what's different from the opinions we get when we talk with customers in Germany or in Middle Europe. United States is just a little faster in realizing things than other areas in the world. That's why you should be here and listen to the customers what the market wants.
Okay. So you have been protecting, like Wibu-Systems has been protecting software for now over 3 decades, right? And the software world has changed enormously in that time. So from what you were saying, from a shrink-wrapped, boxed software to SaaS to cloud and now to AI. How has the core problem Wibu-Systems solves changed over those decades, and what stayed the same?
Yeah, so in the principle, at the beginning, it was a copy protection system. So you could install your software as many times you want, but you could only run the copy when the dongle was attached. You can principally bring it from one computer to another, and that's not a problem. But it was primarily around the software runs, the software doesn't run. And later, the first thing was this, we say, feature on demand. That means So you could remote change the dongle in the field. So the dongle was shipped, and you could reprogram the dongle. So you could give him the dongle a new expiration date when the license doesn't work anymore, for example, and could implement by that software subscription, which is today quite standard, but in this time it was relatively new. And another thing is this feature on demand that we say the customer just buy a subset of the software. He doesn't buy the full part. The dongle in this case, or the license container in general today, defines which feature of this software, which is always the same, are actually available for this customer because he bought it. And when the customer wants later changes, so he buys new features, then the license will be updated in the field. So we had this already in the beginning of the 90s with exchanging files. And today that usually works with a website. So the end user goes to the ISV, the independent software vendor who sold him the software, goes on his website, make decisions which new features he wants, or extend the subscription or whatever, or start a trial license, all these different options, pay possibly something, and this ERP system who makes all this purchase connects then with a service from us, and this service provides a ticket, which is 25 character sequence of characters. And with this ticket, he's then able to update his license. So there is no file involved or emails or anything involved. And that is, so I would say, a modernized licensing system where you have way more flexibility than you had before.
Sure.
And the customers see more and more licensing as a marketing instrument. So they can say, we promote a special feature promote, for example, trial license, or we give a special price for adding a feature, or we give him more flexibility for a limited time with no cost, and all these things running through the licensing. And it's important that the developers of this software, they're not affected by that. So if, for example, a feature is not selling well, and then the marketing or the product management decides we should make a promoted trial license about this feature because we think it's useful, but customer doesn't know it. They have not to go to the developer and say, can you add for this feature and a trial implementation? It's practically the product management decide we will have a trial license for this feature. The feature is one time implemented, of course, by the developer, but what then happened around the license with this feature is out of the responsibility of the developer. So it's a very convenient way to make quick marketing changes around licensing. And this is where we say software monetization. So you're optimizing your earning around your software by using licensing features.
Awesome. Yeah, I also want to like dig in a little more, like, the moment when you realize that, okay, this, you understood that AI specifically has become a major focus for Wibu-Systems. The focus needs to change from, of course, it has changed from physical dongles to licensing-based system, and now, we need to specifically target the AI protection. So what triggered that? What happened? Was it like an industry shift, or was it something you saw coming? What made you think that, okay, AI protection is now a core part of what we do?
Yeah, I mean, it is not. It is still something we do additional. It is not something we extremely focused on that. But so the most you want to protect your agent when you there is two parts of AI. We have on the one side the data, which probably is privacy and other related input. So, for example, you talk about your personal life, and you want to be sure that this data is not compromised or distributed. And on the other side, you have this agent, the code who was implemented, that you have this AI capability, and you don't want that this code get duplicated or get reverse engineered, and your competitors imitate your idea. And so in principle, this code is AI based, but this is not much different from other code. It's written in a programming language, it's compiled or interpreted. So you have usually programming languages like C++ on the bottom, then Python in the top, between, say, maybe some other languages. And then you use our tools to protect that. So having an AI agent which is protected is not very magic. It is for our tools just a new market area. And in principle, you could arguing and say, okay, my agent runs as software as a service. It's well protected in my servers. I don't need any protection because the customer never sees the code. He just sees the website and doesn't download anything. So he cannot really analyze this code or modify it. That's principally true. Uh, Software as a service with someone who can say, okay, they don't, I would say, not really need us. There's probably some overlapping areas, but when someone is really focused on software as a service, they could say, I have my account, and when people doesn't pay the account, doesn't pay me, I just block the account. So no more license accessibility. This is like Salesforce. Yeah, so there is not much. But the trouble starts when a new customer from this software as a service based in company says, we want actually run your agent on our premise, on our hardware, or in our own cloud. So the argumentation, there's several argumentations for that. The one is that the customer says, I have a lot of data on my side. I'm running other agents. Why I should upload my data to your software as a service instead of bringing your software as a service functionality to my data? So he can run several from different companies, several agents side by side. The data will never leave the area, the location. So
Mm-hmm.
the client is responsible that this data is not compromised or copied or distributed or whatever or published. And that sounds all great from side of the client. But then, of course, the developer of this agent has no longer control what happened with this agent. Yeah, it can be reverse engineered. It can be used beyond the license agreement. You can install it not just on one machine or on a set of machines on one IT center. You could principally install it on any type of IT centers. And the second thing happened when it runs in a private cloud. So there is no control what happened with the code and with the execution of the code. And that is where our technology suddenly gets important again, that we can say, yep, you have to convert your execution code, your library and all what you have with our tools in a secured environment. You add a license for that and you control what the customer with this license can do and cannot.
Okay. Yeah. You brought on like very interesting conversation about the AI angle from, for different industries and how, they want to protect it. Because I remember from a pre-podcast call, you talked about a healthcare company that had to move their entire AI deployment from cloud to on-premise, right? Because of HIPAA. If you could tell me that story, because I think that illustrates something that most people have not really thought through, about AI in regulated industries, like how they do the shift.
Yeah, that's a good example. So health is all about privacy of personal data. And of course, the health history of a person is something a lot of people take care about that. Yeah. I mean, people would probably when your employer would know about your health status, you would probably have not a safe job anymore. Or it is something customers cares about. That's keep it private. So there's one example I saw. It was on I think it was on an NVIDIA GDC conference. So it was practically an AI agent who is able to understand X-ray pictures, ultrasonic pictures, and history of health information. So he practically you upload everything what you know about the patient. You upload all the X-rays. You upload all the ultrasonic and other information. Yeah. So for example, also maybe the the receipts you paid for some prescription and everything. So this AI system gets a relative good overview what happened with this patient in the past, and then he predicts what happened right now, which diseases are possible, which maybe cancer or other stuff are detected, or weakness in your circulation system. So it's by way more profound. So you could have, for example, an X-ray you possibly get taken because you break a bone. But on this X-ray, is a system who sees all medicine, not just the bone people, sees probably new diseases and combines this with what this makes sense with the history we see in the text. So it's actually a really powerful system which assists a doctor to make right decisions about what happened with this patient in front of me. And of course, you have the problem when you go to this AI agent is expensive. Which hospital allows to upload all this data to a software as a service system? Yeah, so this is something where a hospital said we should do this now 1,000 times when we have 1,000 patients. We don't even want it one time. Yeah, and so and then of course it's the complexity of the data. Yeah, so you have these pictures and everything takes a lot of space too. And so it takes a while to upload all this. And so it would be by way more useful if this agent would run inside the premise of the hospital. Or when they have a cloud and the data is already in the cloud, it would run in the cloud of the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a typical and a typical example where legal requirements like HIPAA, but also practical environments like performance and speed tend that the AI agent runs on premise and not in the software as a service.
Okay. So in these kind of systems, like Wibu-Systems provide gives a different kind of a facility or the different kind of a system for healthcare industries or where patient information is so critical. So I know you have talked a little bit about your core product here, the CodeMeter, right? So I found something like it's very genuinely interesting because it tracks like license usage in real time, and it's not just that this software is installed, but which features are being used, how many licenses are active, all of it. So why do you think that level of visibility matters, and what what do you think your customers do with that data that they could not do before?
Yeah, I mean, when you get this license tracking information, so you know how customers use the different features, you get an idea how your software is actually used in the field. And this leads to changes about your price structure of your product. It leads also to being focused of new innovations around features people use a lot. And it could also lead to marketing activity that is said, this feature is not used much. It seems a customer doesn't know it well or doesn't understand it well. So we need more educational input to the customer from about this specific underrated feature. Yeah. So you have a lot of real-time information beyond this typical guessing from the product management where people said, I'm sure this feature will be very successful. A lot of people will use it. You know it now. So that's a huge difference.
So now the vendors basically they will be able to use it for product decisions in a way, right? They can optimize their prices, they can do some fraud detection, custom like all those things will be helped because now they are getting real time reporting.
Yeah, or when you, for example, see, I mean, in a large company, when a software is used by many different users, you see so typical combinations of features with specific departments using this more together than others. So you could optimize how your software is used, that this one feature, which is frequently used with the other feature, is very close together, is
Yeah.
easy to protect the transfer the data or can be worked side by side. Yeah, you can not either one or the other. You can use it both because it's so popular. And all this information so leads to the future look and feel of your product. It is not just a short-term marketing decision that we say this feature and that features are actually very popular. We should probably bundle them together and make a special price or a special functionality around this.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great feature of with CodeMeter. This is a great asset for the vendors. Now, you also talked about confidential computing, right? The NVIDIA's technology for hardware level licensing. Now, that is a layer most people in the AI industry, I think, have not caught up yet, right? Can you break that down for me? Like, what is confidential computing? Why does it matter for AI? And where do you think Wibu-Systems fits in?
Yes, so confidential computing is somewhere in the hardware which we're doing right now on software level. So we practically protect the code against copying or reverse engineering or attaching in general. We not do so much with the data, but confidential computing says all the data, while they're executed with code, and the code itself in the RAM cannot be copied out of this RAM. And on the other side, when it's loaded from a hard disk, from a solid state disk, it's in an encrypted way loaded. So all the files, everything, the code, the data in the databases are encrypted. And when it's loaded in this confidential environment, they get decrypted and then can be executed with the same speed as we have today. But this area where they're stored, you cannot access. So when you have results, you store them back to the database in an encrypted way, and then they're encrypted there. And of course, when you have an access key, you can access this data and present it. But all intermediate data or data which is used to make decisions in AI are not in a way available. So this was this is the principle of confidential computing, and it started a couple of years ago. I heard this from on the GDC that Google came actually to Microsoft to NVIDIA and said, we need protection of the data on big data centers and of course of the AI agents. It was primarily around the GPUs, so this highly parallel execution areas. And at the same time, Intel and AMD had actually for their code, where usually the agent is running beyond this highly parallel mathematical execution on the GPU, they had already a confidential computing method available to protect their code and prevent the modification. And so it was a system that you say you need a special CPU from Intel or AMD, which protects this confidential computing. On the other side, you have the confidential computing in the GPU, and this together creates a confidential platform, at least in a single rack board or on a single computer.
Okay.
And this is available today. With the next generation, I don't know the name right now, I have to think about, but the next generation of Rubin is the name. The Rubin platform will have the part which makes the classic calculation, which is ARM parallelism, also ARM parts, ARM CPUs, usually in many in parallel, and the RAM and the GPU will be also one confidential area now. Yeah, and this confidential area will be then protected by NVIDIA hardware. And when you communicate with another board, then you have network communication, and this network communication is also encrypted. So this is also a part of this confidential environment. So you can actually create a whole big data center with many parallel racks, who everything but all this between is protected. And so this confidential computing is I would say the physical enhancement of that what we implement today in software. Yeah. So it will be faster, it will be more secure. There's still some weaknesses around with side channel attacks and other stuff, but that means you would have to be really in front of this hardware to access it, which is of course difficult. So this is the confidential computing approach of NVIDIA. And when you listen to the last keynote from Jensen Huang on the GDC, he says this is a very important thing. So it will be rolled out in the future to other platforms as well. However, the smaller platforms. So for example, you have a mini computer, a really small board size of a Raspberry Pi with NVIDIA capabilities. They don't have that right now. So that will wait a while. So it starts practically with the large data center implementations. So the idea is just that you rent some space at AWS or Azure or Google, and everything which executed there is out of the access from the platform provider. Yeah, so this is I would say the Google approach. Yeah, Google is not very interested that someone has a little smart device like a camera who detects people, and you have maybe uploaded some faces in that and said, I want to be sure that this data cannot be copied. This is not the Google area. Yeah, so Google came not originally with this approach, but of course, this what we say physical AI will be running in future of NVIDIA hardware or running today already on NVIDIA hardware, and so there is a high demand that this area also will be someday confidential computing support, but this is not right now.
Okay. And Weibo Systems is again actually like working a lot in fitting into this, like in the confidential computing.
Yeah, so I mean, we try to bring the licensing into confidential computing. The confidential computing is all about protection, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't tell you how many times you can install something or which features are available or not. Yeah, it just sees the whole application as one block. Yeah, and then you want to change the features in the field, or you want to provide limitations about expiration times with subscription. Mhm. Then confidential computing can protect the code around this, but it cannot implement all the feasibilities you need to implement this licensing details. So that is something we will extend additional in the confidential computing. And it will be very transparent for the customer. So the customer doesn't see a big difference if this program runs now on a confidential computing system or runs on a non-confidential computing system, because customer is possibly older hardware running. It will be somehow easily migratable, transferable. So that is at least the goal.
Okay, great to know that Weibo Systems is thinking about it. But now let's talk about, the problem that does not have a clean answer yet. About data attribution and compensation, like what you were just saying that, you mentioned in our pre-call actually this part that 90% of Wikipedia reads are done by AI agents, right? That is extraordinary, and the implication is that the entire internet is being consumed by AI systems that are building value from content created by people who are not being compensated for it. So where does Wibu Systems see this problem going, and is there going to be a technical solution emerging out of that?
Yeah, so it's out of our limit to work on standards or something, but I know there is some people they're working on such standards, and so the idea is actually that when data is loaded in an AI system, it's tracked how this data is finally used somehow. So I give you an example. Someone composed a song, and this song is a very interesting melody. So this song is practically used to create new songs who have a different melody, so it's not violating any rights. But it is, of course, knowing from this song how you make such a different music. And so you could say every time when this I created music is played, you would get a little share because you distributed your data to this AI system. Yeah? It sounds like we talk about microcents, that's probably right, but when the song is million times played, it's still a couple of $100. Yeah, even it was just a micro payment. And so from this side, this is an approach. No one knows if it will work. Yeah, but if it works, for example, when we go back from music, which is a relatively important example, to text or information, we could say Wikipedia, for example, get a share out of that. So suddenly Wikipedia get paid and can have much better financial situation as today who needs donations. So I don't know if this works out. There is some small companies, they work on standards. If we follow what they're doing, we can probably use our technology to protect this whole infrastructure beyond confidential computing, or so people cannot try to cheat it. And we can also be a part of the whole operational aspect from how this money is collected and distributed. It's just an idea. We don't have that worked out,
Okay.
but it could be an approach. We definitely look in the future what happened on the market and which new ideas coming in and talk with these people. It will very likely something what NVIDIA or other part companies will probably try to standardize. But this is at the moment too early, I would say. Yeah, it's still a market where no one really knows how the business models will look in a couple of years. So I mean, the moment so the first established, you have your personal assistant, you pay a flat fee for that. But this is not that we say, okay, I pay some, there's always this tokenizing. So you pay tokens if you use something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's probably get more important. So we come to a pay-per-use model. When I use my agent intensively or very complex with very difficult questions, I use more token and I have to pay more, or it will stay a flat rate. We have no clue what the market accepts and what people think about that.
Okay. I mean, there's a long, I'm sure, like, people are thinking of such ideas on how to do this AI data monetization kind of a thing. How it will work, and how, what kind of, say, for example, if you were designing, you gave the music analogy here. So if you were designing, Spotify had to build a solution, YouTube had to build a solution. So AI eventually will have to build a solution in that, right? On how to maintain it. And so if you were designing this YouTube content ID equivalent for AI training data, what would it actually have to track, and so on and so forth. So I want to shift gears a little bit here and want to ask about robotics and autonomous systems here, because you mentioned these, as a frontier for Wibu-Systems. So like an autonomous vehicle or a surgical robot, they cannot call home to validate a license, right? It has to make decisions locally in real time. What does licensing look like in that world, and what is Wibu-Systems building for it?
Yeah, so we see, I mean, cars at the moment are
Mm-hmm.
mostly closed systems. Yeah, so when you think about back in the past, you buy a car mechanically and you could add, actually there's distributors of additional features you could add in your motor area, you could add in your dashboard. So you see some information you didn't see before. So it was actually a market where a lot of people added things. And that's mostly disappeared. Today, especially electric cars are highly complex closed systems. And the moment it's not really to see how that will be changed. Yeah. And the robot industry is similar. When you buy a humanoid robot, it's usually from a company. They make the hardware, they build the hardware, they make the software. Everything is coming from one company, which is, of course, for this company profitable, and they control everything. And so usually they sell a dongle, a robot as it looks, and the software get updated, but the software is not sold. And this is so when you think back, like computers worked in the 60s. IBM sold the computer in the 50s more. So the computer and the software you run on it was usually free, or from the user developed it. Yeah. When you compare this today, the most expensive part of a PC or a server you buy is actually the software. It starts already that sometimes the operating system, the Windows server, is more expensive than the hardware. Yeah? Depends how much the hardware is, but for small servers, it's definitely the case. And then when you add then software like email servers or databases, it gets really expensive. So the software is actually the by way biggest part of this cost. And I predict that, I don't know with cars, but I predict with robots, it will be the same. The robots are no longer in the future closed systems, they're open systems like a PC. So you have an operating system running, and there exist already standards named ROS, Robotic Operating System. And on this system, you have virtual machines who practically gives them the functionality, and they works together each other. So for example, when a robot will move, will walk, so like a human robot will walk on feet, then information about that he is stable will come from the cameras, but it will also come from stability sensors or other stuff who said you have to balance this back differently because you go down and up. Yeah. So beyond visibility, you have other sensors, gyroscopic sensors, for example. And each of these companies are around this hardware are specialized, and they work together to provide at the end that this robot walks stable, independent if he loads a lot or walks backwards or goes up or down the stairs or whatever. And because it's too complex that one company oversee all that. And so then you come in this situation that the end user, because it's open now, can install additional software. So they can say, so for example, I need the camera is not just moving this robot forward and stabilized and know when you touch something that you reach the location. Want to use this camera for detecting specific people around me, so I know who I'm working with, for example, and know their knowledge. And for this, you would have an additional software, and this software would not be a standard part of this humanoid robots. It would be added from a third-party company, like you add today a database from known Microsoft on a or Microsoft operating system. And then you have the same situation with the licensing you have today on PCs. So this is for us an important future market. Robotic.
Okay. Now I'm going to come to like one of the hardest questions I want to ask on this thread. And I have from your pre-podcast chat, I understood like, I want to really get that thought process out to the audience as well. So I think, I'm asking you that again, because I think you're one of the few people who actually see this very clearly. So when you look at the AI protection space, as it exists today, the tooling, the standards, the regulatory environment, what is the thing that is most broken? And what is the gap that nobody is actually closing?
Yeah, it's hard to say. There's so many things in parallel, and a lot of things are changing all the time. Yeah, what we said before, that AI systems practically copy data from other systems like from Wikipedia or from sound, from music, who someone has a copyright on it, and use this for making new things. And with the new things, you earn a lot of money. Is a serious problem. What I think it has to be solved in a way, otherwise people will be disappointed, and then the whole AI will be seen a negative image. I could be, I don't know. I see the same situation is when we continue making so much progress in productivity around AI. We come to the point that a lot of jobs are no longer necessary because we can just do this automated, totally automated in a better quality. And there's always the vision that said, yeah, when people use their job, there's possibly something new to do. Maybe, yeah. There's estimations that in the next 20 years, 1 billion people in the world will use their job to AI. So practically everyone who sits in front of a computer or works with data primarily and not with humans very physically is and threatened with that. And it could be we have so many jobs we cannot fill anymore, which leads to the next point is the productivity is still higher as before. So we get practically the same money, but without these people. What leads to the point, yeah, who is going this money? And we can say, yeah, the person who invented, who started this company, they get all the profit, or and this is a little socialistic approach. I agree. We say actually, let's divide this to everyone. Yeah. So we probably come. It is not sure. It is just I'm not sure. It's a vision of many people, but it could be that the productivity will in future so high that the people has not to work anymore to have a good income. And then when we distributed this, we will come in a situation where we say machines do all the work and the humans has finally time to care about other humans, to care about creativity, to do what they really want, yeah, to doing non-computer things, yeah, like painting or whatever, or walk around and see the world and whatever. And then this has to be politically addressed. It doesn't happen right now because we don't know the impact yet. But it could be I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean when you look back to in the 80s, the 1980s, there was the computer revolution because the microprocessor was invented. So a lot of people who had mechanical jobs disappeared. So there was people they built manually very complex mechanical machines like a stopwatch, yeah, which was not an art. It was just used for practical reasons. And suddenly you replace the stopwatch with an electronic one. And people said, yeah, I mean, I don't need we need your job anymore because this product you made all the time doesn't need anymore. But these people found other jobs. So there was not that people lost their jobs, but productivity in general grew dramatically in this time. And that was all before we have robots. Yeah, it's not that we say, okay, we replace the mechanical construction, the manual worker with someone with a robot. Yeah, because the robot came in much later to have the ability to make this complex production work. But in this time, became all the fear that we have a billion of people with no work and other people make all the profit didn't happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's this time again, maybe not.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
see. I just think it is something society and politics should keep an eye on it and interact in a reasonable way to say, okay, when the productivity output, like the profit, is limited to very few people, that's possibly not a good thing. So that's why I said it's type of socialism. I agree with that, and I'm not usually a socialist person. Yeah, but this is a situation where I would say distributing profits is not ruin your ability to work harder and have more results. So it's on a much higher level. So that could happen. I don't.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very honest and very unfiltered assessment of the current AI situation. No, thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit here. So we have talked a lot about the technology and the roadmap, and now I want to talk about the business of running Wibu systems in North America. You're scaling a highly technical B2B product in a market where your competitors have been there, where a single enterprise sale can take years. Now, when you step back from the product and just look at Wibu Systems as a business to grow, what is genuinely hard right now?
I mean, it's hard to find new customers who want our product because there is a competitive market. We have other companies that do similar product with us. These products are not standardized in a way. So if companies switch from a competitor product to us, they have to change a lot. So it's not like you need a new printer and you say, I don't care if it's a Ricoh or a HP or whatever, a Lexmark, they're all working similar. There's the same slot for paper and there is the same network port and there is a driver which runs on a Windows. And in 5 minutes, I switch from this company to the other company. No, this is a long development process and a decision process. And a lot of, we say it's not really competition. A lot of people actually do this licensing in-house. So they have their own one. They say it's free. Our developers is doing it. Why we should pay an external company to do this? And so this is so the difference between software protection or licensing only, and then what I explained at the beginning, this path to software monetization, where you're using the licensing for enhancing your business models. Yeah. And that you can, when you go on this level, it's very hard to do this with an in-house solution. So that's what I say in this case. When a company makes its decisions to do this, sometimes you have to convince them to do this before they see the advantages. So it's for us relatively difficult to show the customers the power of monetization. Yeah, it's not easy to have some case studies who show this. I mean, when you go on our website, you see a lot of success stories where customer says why you're going with us,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all real and understandable and said, yep. But every success is a little different. So it is a challenge that customers find us right in that moment, yeah, and said, I want a better licensing system.
Mm.
And how I know that CodeMeter is the best used for us.
Yeah, no, I think it's all about, finding the right prospects, getting in front of the right people in the first place. I think that's something which is like
Yes.
very
Yeah.
much needed, because as you're saying that people are building things in house and they want to go with that, but then there are some advantages, of course, of using Wibu systems. So that needs to come across to the right prospects here. So then you are running operations again across both small startups and large enterprises, right? Like
Yes.
Boeing. Customers at completely different scales with completely different buying processes. How do you manage the sales motion across those two ends of the market? Like they I'm sure have different cycles, different, which one I would say is consuming more of your energy right now than it should.
Yeah, in principle, smaller customers, this is also, they have the same challenge of support and questions and changes, and some smaller companies are more innovative than big companies. They want the very new things we don't have yet, or new things which is not mature in usability, so we have to explain more. But on the other side, a small innovative company can lead to a successful product we finally sell to a bigger customer. So it's very hard to separate them. And finally, you have this whole spectrum from companies who have sell 10 licenses a year to others who sell millions, buy millions. So it's hard. And then the next challenge is you have a startup company who is relatively small, but they can grow, and we want to grow with them as well. So it's you usually not refuse a small company when they have serious interest in buying our product.
See. My one follow-up question would be like Wibu-Systems has been North America for a long time, but your roots are in Europe. Building brand recognition in North America for a highly technical product, where the default assumption is that enterprise security means US based vendors. I think that is also a real challenge. So how are you thinking about, the marketing and brand building side of the growth equation?
Yeah, I mean, we work close with Germany together. So the whole development is made in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
The marketing strategy is restarting in Germany. We sometimes have different marketing directions, so we can vary our marketing in the United States. We can make it different. The website, we keep this one website global,
Mm-hmm.
which translation in different countries like Chinese and Japanese very important. And the important thing is that all this information on the website should be consistent from country to country. Otherwise, you have to challenge that people probably go on our UK website and see different information than from the US website in English both, and are highly confused. They said, when the one company talk about this and the other not? So this is where you say you want a globally consistent appearance. On the other side, you have, of course, bigger and different markets. So in China, for example, you have not so much the software monetization, you have more the protection aspect. So because the piracy is much higher there than here. So in America, most people agree when you have a software, you have to pay for that. So you will do it. And sometimes you probably use a little more copies than you should use, or sometimes people try to use a feature which they didn't buy. But this is not the mainstream. But in other countries, if you don't have a protection, they would use 100 of copies, 1,000 of copies. They don't care. So
Mm-hmm.
that means the first view, what you see on their website. Yeah, we say, for example, software monetization is possibly the most important. They say software protection is the most important. This is so stuff. So when we talk about our different technology directions, you have probably variations from country to country. That is, I would say, a localized marketing. And from the technology side, we selling all our products globally. So we not say specific products are only available in specific markets, with very few exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we say make the same goal like all other software companies like Microsoft or Oracle or whatever, that you practically sell any product in any market, what customer want. And some markets, some regions have probably more success in that product and others in another product. And then you possibly adapt your marketing around newsletters and advertisements and online commercials more and more in this and not in the other direction. But from the principle, it's important that the company works globally together.
Yeah,
And
very important. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Having a unified system which says the same thing across globally is very much required. And again, but you optimizing your marketing strategy depending on the need of what the country is specifically looking for is again equally important. So the strategies depend on that. Now, last one on this thread. What keeps you up at night about Wibu-Systems in North America right now? The things specific to this market, this
Yeah,
team,
I
and
mean, there's all the exciting changes in the market. So you like we mentioned the most. We have the AI, uh, we have robotics, we have and more software is dominating the market. So you see this also in cars. However, we not really in this because I said cars are very close, but everyone talks about software-driven vehicles. So software, not driven, software-designed vehicles. So you practically have always the same hardware, but if the car is now a sport car or more a luxury car, will heavily influenced by the software because mechanics are different setup by the software. And so with the software, you can make much bigger changes. And the more important thing is we learned this all from using computer software. Software is never completed. It will always have a life. It will be updated. It will be changed. And so the tradition in the car industry was the software is a support for the hardware. And that moment the car is produced, the software is finished and not get updated except there is a really big problem, a bug or security weakness, but in principle, the software is done. And the first company who dramatically changed this was Tesla. They sold you hardware for autonomous driving with tons of cameras, and you have to pay for that. But the software was not available for that. They came 2 or 3 years later. And so the people has to wait for that. And then it gets enhanced all the time. And so this approach, where we learn when we have a computer, that we update all the time our software, Tesla started that, and now all the other car industries following that. Yeah? And I see this trend everywhere. Yeah, in all type in consumer products. Yeah, when you bought in the past a TV, it was just finished. Yeah, now every couple of weeks that there's an update. Yeah, and this is not just a security update; they bring you new features. Yeah, they bring you a better usability, and so all this software driving leads to more licensing and to more protection around that. And then on the other side, you have also more cyber threats where you need the protection not against reverse engineering, but against modification, where people try to steal you, for example, your login data or other stuff. Yeah? And so we also working in this direction. So I mean, our solutions help that, preventing it. So it's not an industry where we say, like in many other mature industries, where we say, okay, everything is invented. The future is how we reduce our cost, how we are we more competitive in the market with reducing the cost there. But this is we're far away from that. Maybe some people saw this in the past, but I'm not seeing this. So it's very exciting. We see, for example, consumer products in the future will be mostly software driven. So sell the software, sell the consumer device with a subscription. A lot of companies are already starting this, yeah. But the most mainstream of products is you buy one time a product filled with software, and it is it. So from this side, I see a lot of changes, and we will follow up to provide the solutions the customers, the market wants.
Yeah. So what's your vision now that, with all these changes happening, where do you think WibuSystems look like in 5 years in your mind now?
Yeah, I mean, we have, I hope we still have the same customers we have today. Yeah. So they're not disappointed and go to somewhere else and or go bankrupt, which is even worse. We hope we have new customers. Yeah. We hope that the new customers and the existing customers going in new directions with their software and have new demands for us. So we fulfill that. So we keep them happy. Yeah. We will top of innovation because our experience is the customers tell us where they want to see a product. And that is listen and implement it. That's come back to that what I said at the beginning. Only when you have your own office, you can quickly report the customer demands internally to the development or to the product management. When you have distributors, they probably don't report all these requirements. So that is why we decided to have our own offices.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, and yeah, that's a great vision for WibuSystems. I strongly wish you all the best, and yeah, that you reach that stage very quickly. Now, last question, and I ask this to everyone. Now, what is the one thing you know now about building WibuSystems in North America that you wished someone had told you at the very beginning?
Yeah, I should say this is a wisdom for everyone who comes from a foreign country to United States. This country is very big, much bigger than Germany. It's principally smaller than Europe, but Europe is so separated with different cultures and different languages. So you have not this unity like America has. And when you add actually Canada, then it's even bigger. as one very important block of business. So at first, it's very hard to learn that that everyone in this country knows your product. That takes a long time. And don't expect that everyone is waiting for your product. Yeah. Because usually all problems who has to be solved are already solved somehow in this country. So you can provide a better product, a nicer product, a cheaper product. Yeah, you have still a lot of alternatives to change the market, but don't expect that you come with this one product as a secret from another country and now you sell it in masses here. It maybe happens sometimes with typical consumer products like beverages or some other food, but I don't see this in any B2B area. So that is something, my experience is it's it's a very exciting, promising market with a lot of opportunities, but this is not easy to come in. Yeah. So you need patience. So you need I would say you need patience and flexibility.
Yeah, no, that's a very key lesson. You just said it loud. Patience, resilience, flexibility, it's all needed because
Yes, you're totally right. Yeah.
yeah.
I would say yes for that.
Yeah, the country has a lot of opportunities, but you need to have the patience for it to actually do something for you. So, Marcellus, this has been a genuinely great conversation. Thank you so much for coming as a guest to this podcast. I think this Wibu-Systems is solving a very foundational problem. We talk so much about AI capability, AI speed, AI output, but I think almost nobody is talking seriously about AI protection, data attribution, and what happens when the model itself is the product. So I think that's a very critical infrastructure problem. And the healthcare example which you gave, that's like one of the it's the kind of real world story that cuts through the noise. So before I let you go, where can people find you and Wibu-Systems if they want to connect, learn more, or if there is a AI vendor in our audience who wants to understand what protection actually looks like at their level?
Yeah, I mean, you should go on our website. It's the company is Wibu-Systems. The website is www. You can even drop this. Then wibu.com.
Mm-hmm.
We have when you want to personally send me an email, you find my name in LinkedIn. So I'm think the only person in the world who has this combination last and first name. So there's no confusion possible. And when someone want to contact me, I'm a pleasure to have any discussion, anything you disagree with me, what I said. I'm very open to listen to you and start a conversation. Yeah. And otherwise, if you need our product, yeah, I would say the best way is going to the website. There is a form you fill out. You can ask for a test kit, evaluation kit, where everything we provide, you can physically test if it works with your software. And so it's actually absolutely no risk evaluation for no cost to go through that before you decide to will be a customer of us.
Awesome. Perfect. So thank you so much. I'm going to put up the links and your website link and your LinkedIn link in the show notes. So to everyone listening, if you are building AI products and you're not thought seriously about how you protect the model, the data, and the licensing layer, Wibu-Systems is worth your attention. I'm Satopa Dwivedi, and this is the Real AI by ActNow 360. See you in the next one. Thank you so much, Marcellus. Thank you.
My pleasure. So having me for me. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Thank you.